So we always knew that community groups, wildlife recorders and environmental volunteers were a committed and enthusiastic group of people, but nevertheless to have nearly 90 of you signed up for this briefing this morning is a fantastic response. So it's very encouraging to have your support in this vital work for nature recovery in Kent in Medway. This is what we're going to cover today. Some of you might have had a bit of information already, but what are local nature recovery strategies? That's what the project is developing, why they're needed, and how you can help in developing the strategy and promoting this work. So as I said, we're trying a relatively short presentation, allowing lots of time for Q&A. We've got an hour this morning. If you've got a question, this is for the Q&A session rather than in the presentation, if that's okay. It would be best to introduce yourself when you raise this, or you put questions in the chat as well. So yeah, if you can mute your microphones and turn off cameras, we'll make a start. So what are local nature recovery strategies? Well, they're a legal requirement under the Environment Act 2021. We will be one of 48 across England with no gaps or overlaps. They work at the landscape scale. They're locally developed by the appointed responsible authority, which in this case is Kent County Council working with Medway Council, and they're collaboratively developed. So they'll agree local priorities and associated actions for nature recovery and wider environmental benefits that collectively will deliver a nature recovery network for England. And the aim is ending the decline of nature and supporting its recovery. So why is it needed? Well, this is a slide from the National State of Nature report, and that shows some worrying trends, particularly the one in the middle there, which is a whole 750 species have fallen on average by 19% over the last 50 years. And that report came out in the autumn, showing that agricultural management and climate change are some of the greatest drivers of change over the last 50 years. And then we have our own State of Nature in Kent report from 2021, which you can find on the Kent Nature Partnership website. And again, some worrying statistics, particularly about water quality and about managing development and fragmentation of our precious habitats. But it can be turned around. There's some significant wins for nature since 2000, many of which have been with concerted conservation effort. Shows that where people join together, we can maybe make a difference. And just a reminder that nature also underpins society. So nature in its own right, absolutely important, but it supports our water quality, our air, our food, of course, agriculture being at 70% of the land in Kent, and of course also our well-being. And the evidence is absolutely there that what our health professionals would call the wider determinants of health, that nature and time in nature is beneficial for us all. So nature recovery strategies, how they're being developed. We're following the DEFRA regulations that were published in March this year, and you can see the process that we're going through. So the development will be evidence-based, locally led, and collaborative. It must follow the statutory guidance I mentioned, and Kent County Council is not solely responsible for delivering the strategy. I mean, it's being developed collaboratively, and delivery will have to be with public, private and voluntary sector partners all playing a role. So the sort of area that we're in at the moment is around agreeing priorities and identifying potential measures. So work that's been done at the moment with online surveys, and then some upcoming workshops that I'll talk about later, all filtering into statement of biodiversity priorities. But there's also significant bits of work going around mapping areas that are of particular importance for biodiversity. That's quite prescribed as designated areas, and later in the project, mapping areas that could become importance for biodiversity. So how will the local nature recovery strategy, I'll refer to LNRS because it's shorter, deliver nature recovery actions? So it's going to inform local plan making. They have to take account of the strategy, which is stronger than the initial wording in the Act. It's linked to biodiversity net gain, which is those gains from the development that are going on in the county, which is also a mandatory requirement. Linked to incentive schemes called environmental land management schemes and other schemes for farming. And it will also, as well as identifying areas for nature-based solutions, so how nature can solve society's problems, those opportunities will be in there, be mapped and identified, and that needs to link up with finance, green finance, to take forward, those sorts of areas. So action investment directed to areas of the greatest need and benefit, and how it will work is that losses and impacts will be directed away from the most valuable assets. So it will be a very different type of strategy, very much a grassroots strategy, a strategy with greater teeth, I think, than some of the previous ones that we've seen. It is sort of a once in a generation opportunity in that sense. There's a lot of information on this slide. I won't concentrate on so much on what it won't do, but what LNRS will do: identify areas where the creation or improvement of habitat is likely to provide the greatest benefit. We'll identify potential measures to support delivery of the priority. We'll inform opportunities for funding and investment. We'll actively seek input from all stakeholders, and we'll listen to all views on priorities and areas identified as potentially important. So we'll review, revise and republish on a regular cycle. So it'll be published, the aim is in May 2025, and then that's where there'll be a cycle of reviews based around sort of the delivery of the strategy. So it is very much on the left hand side there. You can see it's not a case of forcing people to do things, but it identifies opportunities and provides sort of strong guidance for those sorts of actions. And it won't be published without a full public consultation in the first quarter of next year. Now, probably what some of you be thinking will be whether LNRS can prevent development. Well, it won't change what is in current local plans or the course of current development or development proposals, so it can't be used retrospectively. But once published, local authorities will have to take account of it, as I said, in terms of future developments and plan making. We don't know the degree to which LNRS will prevent certain developments, but if your geographical areas of interest are identified in the LNRS, it seems likely that there'll be a stronger possibility of development being diverted from these areas. In addition, being in the LNRS will lend greater weight to funding bids and finance directed to these areas. So you can imagine a scenario where something identified in the LNRS will only increase in terms of its biodiversity value, and then in future iterations of the LNRS, it will stand out as a more important area. So there's everything to play for there, but it's just important to know what it will and what it won't do. Well, we imagine that most of you are working for free or out of pure passion for your local natural environment. We also hope that you have the on-the-ground knowledge to experience that will enable this to be an ambitious but practical and deliverable strategy. Probably you can tell us in the Q&A after the presentation, but Rachel and our perception of the people gathered here today is that community groups are well placed to promote the strategy development and encourage others, as well as inputting directly. In terms of data, Kent species recorders are already the backbone of the work via the records being sent to the Kent and Medway Biological Record Centre, and data will be key going forward. And environmental volunteers are well placed to identify measures on the ground in strategy development and to be part of the delivery of these measures as the strategy is delivered. And we need your help in many different ways. Many of you might have already been engaged with our Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Rachel's been very busy posting information on there, and also we have the newsletter. If you can get involved with that and spread the word via social media, that's very much welcome. Also, we have online surveys. There's a current one related to the upcoming priorities work, which hopefully you'll fill in yourselves, but also share with other people. We're also aware with this group, fantastic response, but we haven't got on Eventbrite who you actually represent. So in your own time, with the email on the screen there, it'd be quite useful if you could send us an email with on the header your organisation and then any website or key information contacts that we need, so we get a real impression of who's out there. But certainly we're very pleased with the response that we've had. Now, you probably gathered already, this is sort of quite a structured process, and not everybody likes sort of charts, flow charts and diagrams as such. So we also put out a call with the newsletter that went out this week on a call for artists. So maybe you are one, or maybe you know somebody who could interpret what the project's really all about. This is a beautiful picture courtesy of Kathy Barcham through South East Rivers Trust. So you can see a grassland and wetland there, absolutely thriving with plants and birds. And you know, not saying that's the only artistic interpretation. It might spark an idea. There might be some things that people can come up with in the coming months that we can then share, and it helps to bring in people in a different way. So hope you find that will be an interesting one that you might be able to do a bit of digging around for us on. So going back to the actual mechanics, as we just mentioned, about the structure and the timeline. Yeah, so at the moment there's a bit of mapping going on, which Kent Wildlife Trust are doing for us with the Record Centre. Mapping areas where nature recovery action has been taken. This is going to be an app which you'll hear about in the next month, and that will be really helpful, because if you've got action going on the ground, it's a quick and easier way of letting us know, dropping a pin on a map and showing us where things are happening. That's not ready yet, but we will let you know when that is ready. Strategy area description is important because it will be there right through to the published LNRS, and it will help obviously in sort of inform our work. And we've got a lot of information that will help us with our priorities in terms of state of nature report and Kent biodiversity strategy, Kent habitat survey, that helps to inform where we go next. Yeah, the priorities and potential measures on the mention that's some upcoming work. Later in the year, mapping areas that become of particular importance for biodiversity, and then finally the consultation and publication. Yeah, just a little recap. So up and coming workshops, I'll come on to those. The app, Mapping Current Nature Recovery Action. April and May, the LNRS priorities and potential measures. So another series of workshops. And then we have opportunity area workshops and survey in September as well. Might all seem a little bit bewildering in terms of where you need to input. I'll put up on the screen, you may have seen on the websites, where these face-to-face all-day workshops are, but this slide helps to illustrate, hopefully, what is needed at each point. So the workshops that are coming up, the morning sessions will be on pressures, threats, challenges and opportunities. So identify where the key issues that the LNRS needs to address and the opportunities it needs to realise. That's what the discussion and what we'll be capturing from yourselves and all the other stakeholders in partners in the morning. The afternoon, so that's the influencing the why. The afternoon is influencing the what. So this is more to identify what outcomes, broad outcomes that the county would like to see for nature. So kind of wish list informed by yourselves, informed by the threats and opportunities discussion in the morning. And then there's a bit of a gap, lots of work in between, and then it's about influencing what. So priority shortlist, the workshops in April and May, which we haven't got the dates for yet, and we'll be focusing attention on and resources on prioritise outcomes to deliver the greatest benefits. Influencing how, this is those workshops. Again, it's the potential measures, so the actions that are going to be needed to deliver the shortlisted outcomes and the activities that attention and resources will be directed to. So we've got to follow this process, and then eventually influencing where. So mapping areas that could become of importance for biodiversity. The current mapping we're doing is all those designated sites, and it's quite prescribed and we know about those, but this is the really interesting bit really. Out of all this work, we can map areas that with the work that the LNRS will direct that could become really important for biodiversity. So an online mapping tool and workshops. So this is the area where effort and resources should be concerted to restore habitat to achieve the most for biodiversity and the wider environment. So these are the upcoming face-to-face workshops. Obviously we can have a bit of Q&A this morning, but really to have a day in your local area, meeting with people, having a networking lunch, I think that'll be the real opportunity to exchange ideas and look at those those outcomes that we want for the strategy. Now, Chilham Village Hall is fully booked. The other ones are still available, and I think just important to note that these are all the same. So they are quite generic sort of workshops, but undoubtedly, obviously, in a local area, you will get some of those local issues coming up, and you might find that you meet like-minded people that you hadn't so far met, and that obviously those networking opportunities are important. So that's the nature of those workshops, as outlined on the previous slide. Now, we did wonder how easy it would be for all of you to input a workshop for a full day in the week when some of you will have other commitments. Well, first things first, if you're a group, then not everyone needs to attend, of course. To send a representative that can go along and feedback is a very good good practice. I'm sure you will be doing that anyway. But if your group can't be represented, we wondered whether a self-led meeting with a guidance pack from us would be something that you can use. Now, feel free to email us on that, or pick it up. We can pick it up in the Q&A. So it's not the only way to engage, and we are quite going to be working on that sort of pack that it will have the same information from the workshop, and you can sort of self-lead it and then feed it back into the project. So we'd be interested in that, and also more generally interested to know how you feel we can best engage with yourselves. So in summary, to recap, making space for nature will create a spatially framed strategy for nature, focusing action to where it's most needed and or where it will deliver the greatest benefits. Direct action and investment to areas of the greatest need and benefit. Direct losses and impacts away from our most valuable natural assets, and deliver a coherent and resilient ecological network of wildlife-rich places across Kent and Medway, resulting in a county with thriving wildlife and plants. I don't think anyone could argue with that, but that's sets out what we what can be achieved, we feel, with this ambitious strategy for Kent and Medway. So that's our details there.